That's it? Amen. Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Am I connected here?
Come on, Bruno.
How you guys doing today?
Good.
Yeah? Are you sure?
Yes, sure.
I felt the energy earlier, but right now it's gonna be, You guys like it today? Yeah? Take my shirt off? No. You don't want to take my shirt off. Sacred ground under here, okay? Alright? So as we were saying, we're continuing the series Starting Point, and today is part 2, coming to terms. Now what does that mean? What does it mean to come to terms?
Come on.
Well, before I do that, I'm going to introduce myself. Some of you may know me, some of you may not know me. I'm Roberto. I've been a disciple for about 13 years, maybe 14 years.
I remember you getting that.
2002, something like that. It's so long ago, I don't even remember. Right? But I've been a disciple and I've learned quite a bit of stuff in those 13 years. I've learned how to shut my mouth. I've learned how to be humble. I've learned how to listen, obey, be respectful. I've learned many things. But one of the things that I really learned was truly listening to what the Bible has to say. Okay, so last week, Colin was so gracious to preach on this very stage, and he talked about something happened, was part 1 of the series, and what that series means, what that series was all about really was about that when we were young, we had a framework, or we were given a framework. Whether you were Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, whatever it may be, whatever religion you were part of, basically everything you knew was taught to you. So what you grew up with was something that was given to you. However, as you got older, it didn't really come to fruition. That things that you believed when you were a child, you now question when you were older. And you're like, it kind of doesn't make sense, When we were young, it was, for those who were Christians, it was like, you know what, this is the Bible. The Bible says, obey your parents, respect your parents, or your parents. And then you get older, you're like, but my dad is kind of mean to me sometimes. That doesn't really make a lot of sense. Why should I? And things like that, I mean, these are just really simple examples, but when you get down to the nitty-gritty of stuff, a lot of the stuff you grew up with sometimes doesn't test out when you get older.
Yeah.
So that was what it was. Today, we're talking about coming to terms.
Okay.
So coming to terms to what you learned when you were a child. Coming to terms to there's something new and maybe you need a new starting point. Or maybe you say, you know what I believe I no longer believe, I need to believe again. Or maybe you grew up not knowing anything about God and you're like, how do I get to know God?
Yeah.
So today is about coming to terms, about the things that you once knew that no longer apply. Amen?
Amen.
You guys with me?
Yeah.
Okay. So, coming to terms. Coming to terms. If you weren't here last week, go back to our website, watch the video. Listen to it because they build up. Today builds up from last week, next week is going to build up from this week, and so on and so forth. So we encourage you guys to always come, to always pay attention, to always take notes. And if you miss any of them, please go back because they build on the things that happened the week before. Amen? Okay. So today we're going to talk about a word that comes up in a lot of conversations, but not in your regular conversations, not in your work-related conversations, not in your household conversation, although it might if you're a disciple, if you're a Christian. You know, it's a word that's usually saved for theology. It's a word that when we use it very specifically. It's a word that's either we intend to cause pain, now hear me out, or we intend to cause, just to sort of reveal to you certain things, okay? Now, if you grew up in the church, if you're a child, and there's some of you here, you know, hi Phoenix, right? I'm happy to see Phoenix here today. But if you grew up in the church, this is a word that you probably heard a lot. Right? But again, when you heard this word, it's not a word that you like hearing.
Yeah.
And here's the reason why. This is the word.
Oh boy.
The word is sin.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. I put this word up on the board here, on the screen here, and you guys already have a picture of what sin is.
Yeah.
You're thinking in your head about the person sitting next to you. You're thinking in your head about things that maybe you've done, or somebody else has done, especially against you, right? It's a sin. And that's what I mean, because that's what I mean about this word, okay? But most of the time, when you hear this word, you hear it in a theological term. I mean, for example, we usually don't say, you know what, son, you were bad today, you sinned against me. Usually you don't hear that. You know, it's like, you know, you need to respect your mom, you need to respect your dad. Yeah. Or if you're at work and your boss says, hey, you know what, let's go have a coffee, we need to talk about some of your sins. Like, you really don't hear that word very often, right? But if you come to church, you expect to hear this word, right? Right? If you're learning about the Bible, and when we hear the Bible says, we're expecting to hear this word. Right? So why are we talking about sin? Why are we talking about, not just sin, sorry, about the word sin?
Okay.
Right? You know, again, a judge or a policeman doesn't give you a sin citation. If you're driving and you're speeding and you get pulled over and then, you know, cop says, you know, I think you were speeding, son. Here's a ticket for your sin. It doesn't really happen, right? It doesn't really kind of jive with the everyday world, with everything that we do, with what life is really about. Sin is sin, and we understand it. Some of us understand it. Some of us don't understand it. But sin is sin. You know, sin is a word that implies a lot, right? But we don't like this word, right? We really don't like this word at all. Why? Because it's a heavy word.
Yeah.
Why? Because, like I said earlier, it implies a lot. It truly exposes your heart. It truly exposes who you are, whether you like it or you don't. And most likely, when somebody talks to you about sin and they're directed to you, you really don't like it. It's really not fun at all, right?
Come on.
So, why is it such a big deal? Again, I'm just going to hammer down a little bit on this word. And there's a reason for that. Because, like I said earlier, when we think of sin, we're thinking of somebody else. Or we're thinking of something, like I said, sorry, somebody else. But when we think of this word and we apply it to ourselves, what are we saying? We're saying, sin is like looking in the mirror, saying, you're the problem. That reflection in there is the problem. And we don't like that. We don't want to be challenged.
Yeah.
We really don't. But when we say, I'm a sinner, or I have sinned, we are truly saying that we've done wrong against God. And we don't want to hear that. There's no one else to blame. There is nothing else for you to do. You've been exposed. You exposed yourself. And we really don't want to go there because it's it's not a nice place to be at, right? Would you guys agree with me on that?
Yeah, sure.
So this is what we've been doing as a culture, as a society, especially in North America. like I'm from the Caribbean. I've never really been in Europe, so I really don't know too much about that. But I know society here in North America, we're very free.
Yeah.
We like to do stuff,
Yeah.
right? You like your things. You like your house, you like your cars, you like your TVs, like I do. You like your movies, your computers, you like your things, right?
Yeah.
So what happens is, because of all this freedom that we know of, because, some people might say because of all the wars we fought and soldiers go out and they come back and, we have this freedom that we've earned, right? We don't like to be challenged with this word. We really don't. Right? So what we've done is we've really thrown this word out. It goes in the garbage. It doesn't count anymore. And we've changed it with a different word.
Okay.
We've changed it with a word that truly doesn't even compare. It doesn't even come close to what the heaviness of this word is. And that word is this.
Yeah.
Mistake. Now what's a mistake? What do you guys would say is a mistake?
Tax.
Right? Sin? No good. Mistake? It's okay.
Yeah.
I made a mistake. Sin is condemning. You feel bad.
Yeah.
It puts you down. Mistake? I'm okay. I have a little too much sugar. Richard, you threw the pen. But it can be codes that we don't really say, can be codes the action that we've truly done. Mistake. So what's a mistake? And here's the thing about mistake. How many times have you gone on TV and you've seen a celebrity or a politician apologize about something they've done?
Yeah.
They got all the mics in front of them, they got all the cameras, and they're like, let's take, for example, Tiger Woods, right? We all know Tiger Woods, one of the best golf players there ever was, right? He was on a good trend, and he made some mistakes, right? So he blew up his family, he blew up his game, his career, everything he knew and he worked for, because he made a mistake. So he's there on TV, and he's saying to you, I am so sorry. In a solemn voice, with a head bowed, with all the, just all the pain that he's suffering. I've made a mistake. I am sorry. I am sorry to you, the people. I am sorry to my wife and my children for the pain that I've caused. And you're sitting and you're watching and you're saying, that's more than a mistake.
Yeah.
Sure, it's a mistake. What you're saying is way more than a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's more. There's just something about it that you may say, okay, I accept the fact that he did something wrong, but it's more than just a mistake.
Yeah.
And a simple sorry doesn't cut it. Right? We use the word mistake, and I'll give you some examples on things that we truly make a mistake. Like if on a math test. You're on a math test, you're writing, you forgot the formula, or maybe you're doing something, or maybe you're thinking about something else and you put the wrong number and you get the wrong answer, that's a mistake. If you're driving, and I drive quite a bit, and I follow, I try to have my GPS with me and it says turn right, but I can't and I turn left, that's a mistake. Right? There's many things that we do that is a mistake. If you're cooking and I'm a chef and I'm supposed to follow a recipe, but I think I know better, and I put a little too much of something that turns out awful, that's a mistake.
Yeah.
Right? I've made a mistake. Here's the thing about mistakes. Right? And here's the, sorry, before we go there, here's this. And you don't have to raise your hand, but you can, in your heart or in your head, you can think about it. If I say to you guys, how many of you guys have ever made a mistake? I think most people will raise up their hands, right? And in fact, is that if you raise up your hand, you'd be looking around and you'd be saying, like, why are you not raising up your hand? I'm sure you've ever made a mistake. You'd be looking around and saying, like, you're not perfect. There is no way you didn't make a mistake. Everybody's made a mistake.
Yes.
Now let's flip that question around. It says, how many of you guys have ever sinned? I think some of you guys will raise up your hands because you guys are honest and you guys are good Christians, right? But here's the thing about that. You will not raise up your hand as quick as it is if you made a mistake. In fact, you'll probably be looking around and you'd be like, oh, I know I've sinned, but who's with me with this? I'm embarrassed. I don't want to raise up my hand.
Yeah.
And you probably will raise up your hand. But you will raise up your hand very slowly, and very differently than if it was just a mistake. Right? And the reason is because sin is much heavier, like I said before. And some of you guys may hesitate and not really think about raising up your hand that quickly. Right? So, when we have a mistake, when we want to make a mistake, it's usually because of one thing. We really don't know what's going on. Right? When you think, oh, I made a mistake or something that you do that was wrong, it's, it's because you didn't have all the information. Right? Okay? Amen? That's a mistake. It's because you have insufficient knowledge, right? By the way, that was not planned. Really? That is a mistake. Alright? Okay? So, here's something that I know to be true. If we're true to ourselves, we'll all agree, or we can all agree, maybe, that sometimes we make mistakes on purpose.
Yeah.
Really, Roberto?
Yeah.
Can you make a mistake on purpose?
Yeah.
Is there such a thing? Right? Can we do that? Make a mistake on purpose? Can we make the same mistake for a long time, over and over and over again, and just be a mistake? A politician that steals for the whole term, and I come from Dominican, and my mom knows about that. Hi, Mom, how are you? Corrupt governments, they steal, and they get caught, and they're like, I just made a mistake. I'm sorry. But they've done it over and over and over again. So, they definitely did it on purpose. Amen. Quotation, a mistake. But we know that it is more than a mistake.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Sometimes, and people don't like to hear this, we plan our mistakes. And what do you mean about that? What do you mean I plan my mistakes? There are times when maybe you had a long week at work and you're tired, or you have that movie that you rented that's just sitting there, or you had another appointment that you really don't want to go to, and you're like, man, I'm going to call that guy and I'm just going to cancel because I really don't want to go. Although you really should. That's a planned mistake, isn't it? You plan to make a mistake. You double booked yourself, right? You planned that,
Yeah.
right? Here's the thing. Many of us, I know this to be true, plan our week ahead of time. So we know what we're going to do ahead of time. We have plans, we have our day timer, we have our Outlook, whatever it is that you guys use. I don't know I use Outlook, I don't know what you guys use, but you got your calendar, you got your things, and it's synced in your devices, and it's on your iPhone, and your computer, and your computer at home, and you follow the trend of what you're going to do, and you know that what you're going to do, sometimes even a month in advance, right? One of the examples that was used in this series from Andy Stanley was that some people actually buy plane tickets to make a mistake. Some people actually have a stash of mistakes at home. Things that they plan out that they want to do.
Yeah.
Things that they don't tell everyone what they're going to do. And they just secretly planning their mistakes. Right? So what do we call that? What do we call mistakes that we plan? Let me hear you guys. Not so heavy. Let's go back to a premeditated mistake. Keep it simple, guys. Right? Keep it simple. Okay? Can there be such a thing? A premeditated mistake. Can you guys in your life think about the things that you've done that perhaps you never told anybody about. Like we like to say here, it's a little pet mistake. This is mine, nobody can have it. I'm going to put it over here and I'm not going to tell anybody about this.
Oh, yeah.
My little mistake, it's mine. And I'm not sure. Right?
Come on.
Sometimes we make mistakes or the same mistakes over and over and over again. Right? You guys want to agree with me with that?
Yeah.
Are you guys with me with that?
Yeah.
Good. I hope you guys are with me. Because I think this is really good. Right? So what do you call a mistake that you make over and over and over again? Right? Or worse, what do you call a person that makes a mistake over and over and over again? Right? Would you call him a sinner? Or would you call him a mistaker? He just really doesn't know what he's doing. Or she really doesn't understand what she's doing. Would you call him a mistaker? Would you call him dumb? I hope you guys are nice and don't say that to their face. No, that would be really nice. Right? So, if it's truly a mistake that they're doing, what do? What would you guys do if it's truly a mistake?
Correct.
What do we do when we make a mistake? Somebody already said the answer.
Correct.
Right? You correct it. Right? So if it's truly a mistake, you correct it. You go after it, take care of it, you address it, you let it be known. If you did something against a brother or a sister or a son, a spouse, a wife, whoever, maybe you said the wrong thing, maybe you and your wife, or me and my wife, or you and your spouse had an argument, and you guys, the husband was really in the wrong, and he just would take no for an answer, and although she was right and he was wrong, he would just not have it. I'm the man, and I know better, but he's wrong. What is she to do? Is she to correct that? Right? Maybe she gets help from somebody else, maybe she gets people in their lives, and they go and they address the issue, and then hopefully they correct the mistake. It was truly a mistake, right? It's just a mistake. If I'm driving and again I turn left when I should have turned right, I just realized that I made a mistake and I corrected. What do? I just go back and turn right. Right? If I made a mistake on my math test and I catch it before I hand in the test, I'm just like, you know what? That doesn't make any sense. I correct that mistake. Right? So mistakes are to be corrected. But here's the problem. You can't correct you.
Yeah.
And here's why. Just pay close attention to this. How can you tell yourself that you're making a mistake? Most of us are proud. Most of us are hard-headed. Most of us don't even know what we're doing. We truly don't know. We do things because that's just the way you grew up. That is the framework that you want to have. That's the things that you do because somebody taught you. You don't know these things. But how can you correct you? I know that I can't correct me. Have you ever tried to correct yourself before? Yes?
Yes.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe? I'll give you some examples so that we're all on the same page.
Okay.
Let's say you're having issues in your marriage and you really don't know how to address them and you seek help. Maybe you seek another couple to help you out. Maybe you go to a specialist. Maybe you go to someone that you pay money to help you with your mistakes. Right? Again, but there's an external source that comes into your life that allows you to do that, to try to correct the mistake you've done. And mistakes are not bad. I mean, you make a mistake, you correct it. That's just the way it is, right? But perhaps there's things in your life that you just really don't know how to deal with them. You seek outside help. And no matter what you do, you can't seem to be corrected. You've tried, and you're like, yeah, I tried. Like the scripture that says, the sin that I did, that which I don't want to do, I keep on doing. It's just like you've tried and you tried, and you just can't get rid of it. There's things in your life that you just can't get rid of it. I get really upset when this happens, or this is my trigger, and this is what happens when I'm really tired. And I don't understand why these things happen, but They just happen. So how do you correct those things? That's the question. Time and time and again, you can't be corrected. You're completely uncorrected, so give up and go home. Because none of this matters anymore.
Okay.
I was watching Monsters Inc. last night, and I don't know, have you guys seen Monsters Inc.?
Yeah.
I think it's one of the coolest movies there ever was. And there's one scene where they get banned and they go to the Himalayas, and Mike Wazowski was telling the other monsters, saying, you know what, like, oh, we're lost, we're banned, we don't know what to do, and Sully says, none of that matters now. And Mike Wazowski goes, wait a minute, what do you mean none of that matters now? We're banned. We will never see our families again. We will never do anything that we normally do. We're banned. We can't go back to our home anymore. What do you mean none of that matters? Are you uncorrected? Here's the point I'm trying to make. We can grab all our mistakes and put them into a pile. And say to yourself, I made a bunch of mistakes. But the problem is that they're not just mistakes. Some might be mistakes. Some may not be mistakes. In the movie, they sort of made a mistake. They told the wrong person what they were doing. And if you've seen it, you know what the movie is all about. And they ended up getting banned because of that. But here's the thing. All the stuff that you're doing, and you pile it up and you keep it to yourself like a little pet mistake that you keep all to yourself, and you keep adding stuff to it. You keep putting it in the closet, and you keep hiding it from people. And you say, well, they're just mistakes, and I'll be okay. As long as I get help. But then you go get the help, and you can't be helped. Because people will say things to you that you're not going to like. People will try and help you get corrected. But you have an issue. Now, not all cases are like that, and I don't want to discourage anybody. The truth is that we can be corrected.
Yeah.
If we truly are willing and we have a humble heart, we definitely can be corrected about the things that we know, things that we learned when we were a child, things that we know of that we know is different from what we know, we can definitely be corrected. And we'll get to that in a little second, okay? But here's the thing. Here's the problem. It's such a deeper problem. Because they're not just mistakes. Perhaps the problem is that you are a sinner.
Come on.
Perhaps, maybe, I don't want to judge, that we are committing sin. So these mistakes that we keep on the side, that cannot be corrected, maybe are just sin. So here's a simple definition of who a sinner is. And by no means is no theological way, not theological, I want to make it as simple as possible. Here's a sinner. Someone who knows better but does it anyways.
Okay.
Do you see yourself in that area sometimes? Right? I know I do. Here's what's interesting. Jesus spoke about sin. And he spoke about sin a lot of times. This is one of the things that he talked about the most, was sin. Sin in people's lives. He talks about sin in connection to relationships. He says, you have sin, or you're a sinner, or there is sin in the world that breaks a relationship.
That's right.
We all have a relationship with one another. Now, if we sin against one another, we're breaking the trust. We're breaking the friendship that we have. We're breaking many things. Right? And maybe it happens one time, and it truly is a mistake one time. But then it happens over, and then it happens over, and then it happens over and again and again. Then that trust is eroded. There's nothing you can do after that. You mistrust that person. You don't want to do anything with it. But what Jesus is talking about is that we have a relationship with God. And because of the sin that we have, we've broken that relationship with God.
Yeah.
And God wants us to be restored to Him.
Yes.
By any means necessary, regardless of what we used to know, or whatever framework we used to know. He says, I want you to be restored to me. Okay? Someone who knows better but does it anyway. If sin breaks a relationship, what restores a relationship? I'm sorry, I'm not good enough. Here's the cool part. Jesus was not about condemning, but he was about restoration. Okay, I just said that a little bit earlier. Right? Because the trust that was broken, the things that happened that led to that relationship being broken, right? And if you did wrong, truly did wrong, and truly was a mistake, you can go back and say, I'm sorry. But I'm sorry is not good enough.
Yeah.
Why is I'm sorry not good enough? Why is it such a thing? I mean, when we do wrong, and we go and we say, you know what, I'm sorry. You want to be forgiven, right?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Sometimes you have, let's go back to that, the wife and the husband, they had a fight, and she confronts him, and he goes like, I'm sorry. That's fine. I won't do it again. Just, do you see it?
Yeah.
Is he truly sorry? Can you see the relationship there? How it's broken now? Do we have a resolve? Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? You do your thing, I'll do my thing. I won't worry about that anymore. I'm good. Are you good? I'm good. Okay, we're good.
Right.
I'm sorry. Right? Did that fix the relationship? No. So what restores a relationship? I can say Jesus, right? Really, and we can all go home, right? But Jesus was not about condemnation, rather he was about restoration.
Yeah.
Jesus knew that as long as we're making mistakes, there is no chance for restoration. Did you guys hear me out on that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's the new teaching, and in the New Testament, it just talks, like I said, talks a lot about sin, and he relates sin to a broken relationship. And Jesus comes along and says some of the coolest things about it. And here's the cool thing about the new teaching in the New Testament is that compared to any other religion, anything else that you know, Jesus is saying you can have a relationship with the Father. But here's the problem: you sinned, and now that relationship is broken.
Yeah.
And you need to restore that relationship back to the Father.
Yeah.
Right? And you just got to say sorry. But not only just say sorry. Right? Jesus teaches about sin, and this is how he does it. He doesn't say, hey, you're young, you're 15, 16, you'll learn one day. You'll be fine. Right? He's like, Jesus not saying, I'm the Son of God. So you guys don't understand what I'm saying, so you guys are okay. Is that what Jesus says?
No.
That's not what Jesus says. Right? Jesus goes on and he talks about sin, and he breaks all the molds, and he puts sin at such a high level.
Yeah.
The standard of sin is so high now that people are looking at him saying like, really? That's what we have to do? There's no point anymore. I can't do that. We're doomed.
Yeah.
But Jesus says, it's okay, I'm here for you. I'm here for you. I'm going to help you get there. To the doomed people, he says that. Here's how he said it. In Matthew 5, verse 20, he says, for I tell you, unless your righteousness, which is the good things that you do, surpasses that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, you will certainly not enter the kingdom of heaven. Now, the Pharisees, if you don't know, these guys were like really good people. They did like a lot of good stuff. They were paid to be good, right? This is what they did. This is what they normally did, right? But when they heard this, they said, how can we be compared to the Pharisees? Are you kidding me? These are like the awesomest people there is on this earth. We can't be compared to them. They're like a saint. You can't be compared to those guys. And he keeps going and says, you've heard it said that it was said to the people long ago, you shall not murder. Right? Most people will probably say, I haven't murdered anybody. Hopefully in this room nobody's ever murdered anybody. Right? You guys will be like, oh, this is good, we're doing great. Right? I've never murdered anybody. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. What? Jesus? What? What do you mean? Everyone gets angry every once in a while, so you're telling me that I'm not even good enough?
Yeah.
That I'm be subject to judgment? If this is where you are in your relationship with people, then here's the thing. You will face the same judgment as that one who murders. This is what Jesus is saying right now. You're angry at your brother or sister, a relative, a wife, a spouse, a son, a daughter. You're just angry with them. They did something wrong to you. They made a mistake and it hurt you. Well, Jesus is saying that as long as you are doing that, you're just as bad as someone who murders someone. That's heavy, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is why we don't talk about sin. Because it's heavy. It really exposes who you are. You have heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. Oh, we're good, Jesus. We've done none of that stuff. We're good, right? But I tell you the truth, anyone who looks at a woman lustfully, stop right there. My wife's not here, which is good. Right? It's like, to the men, maybe, right? Or the women too, because you guys are drinking too as well. Okay, so, woman lustfully, Jesus, we do that all the time. Jesus, what do you mean? Right? Has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Wow. Really, Jesus? You can't say that. You have to be kidding. So, this is what it looks like to be restored. It goes from sin to condemned, to acknowledgement of sin and asking for forgiveness, to being restored. If you take anything away today, this is what I want you to take away. Take a picture of it. Right? Most mistakers do not acknowledge sin. They're not sinners. They just made a mistake, so they say they're sorry. Here's the thing that Jesus was trying to explain. There are things that we do in our heart, things that we do in our mind, that separates our relationship and it breaks that trust that God has with us. And the only time that we can come back to Him is by acknowledging that we've sinned. Sin is good, people, if you acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Sin is good because it takes you from someone who is lost to a restoration with God. Amen? Okay. Here's the thing with mistakers. They think they can be self-corrected, but they just can't. Who knows the prodigal son? It is one of my favorite scriptures of all time. You know, it's also because there's two kinds of people. One set of people, back in those times anyways, there was really two kinds of people. People that were, you know, they loved to go out and have a good time, have a party, and go out and do whatever they wanted to do, and there was no consequence to anything they did. And then there was the other people that thought that everything they did was wrong and completely bad, and they couldn't live without God. Right? It's two kinds of people. Right? So, the people that couldn't do any wrong were the Pharisees. So Jesus told many stories, and this is one of them, and He explains to them, right, about how sin works in people's lives. He talks about the lost sheep, talks about the coin, although it really doesn't make a lot of sense to most of us unless we dig deep into the scriptures. And then He finally talks about the prodigal son. Now, the prodigal son is not a real story, it's a fictional story that Jesus tells, right? And Jesus expands on this, and He talks about it. And He goes on and on and on about a bunch of stuff, and He finally gets to this one, and He's talking to a bunch of people, and He says, this is how He explains it in English, right? Father, I have sinned. Father, I have broken my relationship with you. Father, I have done wrong in your eyes. Father, I am not worthy to be your son. Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you, and I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Your son implies a relationship. Right? Now we know that in the scriptures that when we read it, we're talking that the Father, for the most part, we think that is God. And the Son is usually yourself, or someone that it's not really, yourself, right? So we think about these things. We think about the things that, but here it is. He acknowledged them. And there's a but. But the Father says to his servants, and what he says to them, he's like, he didn't even acknowledge the Son. The Son comes back all heartbroken and says, I'm so sorry, I've done so wrong. He's like, can't be good. Hey, you guys. Right? The Father says to his servants, quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Doesn't even acknowledge what he's done. And the servants are like, what are you talking about? He squandered all your money. He took everything away. He just threw everything down the toilet. What do you mean? He goes, it doesn't matter. None of that matters now. None of that matters now. He gets it.
Yeah, that's right.
He knows what he's done wrong. And he's coming back to me. That's what matters.
Yes.
For the Son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found, so they began to celebrate. The Son acknowledged the sin that he had a broken relationship with the Father. And he came back to be restored to him. And acknowledged what he'd done was wrong. What he'd done separated him from that relationship. When you think about Jesus, when you consider the Christian faith, consider this. Sin is not a path to condemnation. Because it paves the way to restoration.
Yeah.
Sin can't be a good thing if you acknowledge it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying go ahead and sin. That's all I'm saying. Please be righteous, people. Okay? Don't go out and sin a whole bunch. If we acknowledge sin in our lives, we're actually on the right track.
Yeah.
If we go out and realize that when we look in that mirror and we see that reflection and we say, there's a sinner, and I realize that what I'm doing is not right and separating from my relationship, then you're on the right track. You're going in the right direction. What Jesus is here to do is show us the way to the restoration with God. And the only way that can work is that if we acknowledge our sins so that we can be restored to God. You guys with me?
Yeah.
Jesus is having a conversation with us, and he's telling us to not give up. If you have any issues, if you have any embarrassment, if you have anything that you're working on and you feel unworthy, and you can't do these things, or if you have a framework that you've lived for your whole life and is holding you at bay because you really don't want to give that up, but Jesus is saying, recognize what you're doing and be restored to my Father. Don't get up on that. Coming to terms, the things that we're talking about today, is about coming to terms with who you are, what you've done, and things that you can do with it. The whole point here today is for us to be restored to God. Jesus will restore us to God, and we will have a relationship with God. Thank you.
Thanks for that. You guys probably can't sing. Thanks for that. That was awesome, wasn't it? Thank you for that. That was awesome. Really good follow-up to last week, that's for sure. I'm still recording, sorry. I guess, kind of my thoughts on it, if those are important at all. It's really nice to hear. You don't really hear it all the time, take responsibility for yourself and stuff like that. It kind of reminded me of, I'm reading this book right now that Eddie gave me called Tactics, and Sam Kukul, when he's talking to, he does talks at schools, open forums and stuff like that, and at the end of it, he usually says something like, maybe the answer to the feeling of guilt that you feel isn't to just deny the answer. Maybe the answer is that you are actually guilty. And like, whoa, mind blown, maybe. But it's kind of cool because although, like Roberto was saying, like, when it comes to sin and stuff like that. That's the whole point, is to expose your sin, but it's not to condemn you. It's to grow you, and it is to bring you back to God ultimately. And so that's cool how it's kind of a two-sided thing. And most of us, most people look at sin and I guess throw it under the rug because they feel like it's just going to condemn you, like it hurts. I mean, it does hurt, but if you flip it on the other side, there's redemption and there's salvation available. So so I appreciate that, and I guess with that, we're just going to close it with a quick prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the chance again that we can all just gather here in one room in your name. So many places on this planet don't have this luxury. So many places on this planet haven't heard about you, God, and it's just amazing that you, O Lord, have given us this time and this place and these people to learn about you, to grow, to acknowledge our sin, but not just so we can feel bad about ourselves, but Lord God, so that we can take part in the inheritance that you have for us that's available. I want to pray that as we leave this place, that you, O Lord, will help us to grow, to take it with us, to not forget what we've learned, and to really understand that when it comes to sin, that if we acknowledge and take responsibility for it, that sets us on a path to redemption and salvation. Pray all this in your Son's name. And real quick, just a couple announcements that I was supposed to say before. Oops. We're calling everybody to just, everyone here is in a different place, I'm sure. I don't think I'm in a different place from everybody else. I want everyone to find your own starting point. Everyone, whether it's you need to rekindle your fire, you want to learn more about God, or you just need to, maybe there's some topics that we need to start all over again. It's not a bad thing to take it back to the basics, to go back to square one, to really reevaluate where you are. It's not bad at all. Actually, that's what helps you grow and compound on your faith. So that's something that we should really be honest with ourselves about. And if you guys can fill in the cards, the response cards, we want to know how you guys are feeling about the series, the highs and lows, how it's affecting you. Just all that. Be completely honest.